Howdy, howdy, y'all. It is another Maharaj chapter, chapter 68. Seek the source of consciousness. 68 is a very special number. That was my number back in the high school football days. But aside from that, um, this chapter is a very short but to the point chapter. It's pretty much a typical Nisargadatta Maharaj chapter. What can I say? So it, it has a few really interesting metaphors. He has a few metaphors he likes. Like he used old melting down old jewelry to as a way of explaining um, so pretty much so. For example, Maharaj. No doubt, striving for improvement of the world is the most praiseworthy of occupation. Done selflessly, it clarifies the mind and purifies the heart. But soon, man will realize that he pursues a mirage. Local and temporary improvement is always possible and was achieved again and again under the influence of a great king or teacher, but would soon come to an end, leaving humanity in a new cycle of misery. It is the nature of all manifestation that the good and the bad follow each other in equal measure. The true refuge is only in the unmanifested. Questioner, are you not advising escape? Maharaj, on the contrary, the only way to reveal lies through destruction. You must melt down the old jewelry into formless gold before you can mold a new piece. Only the people who have gone beyond the world can change the world. It can never happen otherwise. The few whose impact was long lasting were all knowers of reality, reach their level, and then only talk of helping the world. So this is a part of all this that is interesting because, especially right off the bat, the questioner really talking about like essentially activists, essentially these like people, especially like myself in the past, who have been the sort to want to do something political or do something to change the world for the positive. I mean, we a lot of people have this sort of like, man, the world is unfair. Wouldn't it be nice to do something to change the world? Even as far as even doing something like voting for a political party or whatever, a person. The Sikara Maharaj here is saying essentially is now pointing all this, that we've learned. Essentially, what you could argue, what this book is doing right now, it is pointing it to us towards everything we've learned so far and saying, you want to be someone who can change the world? All right, you gotta be someone first who has changed yourself. And when of course mean change yourself, I mean someone who has realized your full potential, realized your full self, realized reality. And of course, once you realize reality, then you can actually go and help the world. But first, you have to at least help yourself. I mean, how can you be expected to help others when you don't help yourself? And I like the old jewelry metaphor. This a lot of this imagery also just makes me kind of think like this is the role of Shiva, right? I mean, this is what Shiva's about. It's about the destruction. That way, creation can come through. Um, Another point that Nisargadatta Maharaj argues. Now, previously, it was always said that desire, bad, no good. But questioners here, certain basic desires and fears are inevitable, such as are connected with food, sex, and death. Maharaj, these are needs, and as needs, they are easy to meet. Questioner, even death is a need? Maharaj, having lived a long and fruitful life, you feel the need to die. Only when wrongly applied, desire and fear are destructive. By all means, desire the right and fear the wrong. But when people desire what is wrong and fear what is right, they create chaos and despair. So, like I said, this part is very interesting. So he's not even saying like I think ultimately what he would is he's kind of is arguing. And he's essentially alluded to this before is that you want to desire the most higher desired thing, which is, you know, transcending beyond desire itself. That the ultimate desire is to that's the desire is the ultimate desire is to transcend beyond desire itself. But even in this case, he's saying like it's very relativistic and situational. The questioner asks right afterwards, "What is right and what is wrong?" Maharaj, and that's what he says. Relatively, what causes suffering is wrong, and what elevates it is right. Absolutely, what brings you back to reality is right, and what dims reality is wrong. And for me, this kind of does allude back to the idea of like what even good and evil is, because to me, that is kind of what you might describe good and evil is. Good being the the qualities and the traits like love, compassion, tenderness, etc., that remind us of our oneness. And then the traits of darkness are the traits of the ego that, I mean, not to say ego itself is evil, but rather traits that make you focus on the ego and on the self and makes you forget about your oneness with the world around you. That is evil. And so I would just, with that sort of understanding, yes, what the Nisargadatta Maharaj is essentially kind of saying is you desire positive things and fear, not desire negative things. And I think a lot of this maybe like I would be curious if how much of this is a translation, sort of deal too. And what maybe other words might have been used better. I don't know. So I'm assuming he's not saying all this in English, especially because with the way the beginning of this conversation is, they talk about the modern Western mind. They're referencing this is all in context with them talking about yeah, how young Western brains work and operate. Um, but yeah, I don't blame them for thinking this way because it's kind of correct. I mean, it's not entirely wrong. I don't think it's entirely wrong. I know it's very controversial for me to say, but I I I don't. I mean, it might be a bit oversimplistic, but I think for the sake of the conversation, it's fine. I think when we're talking about like a deep academic paper, sure you gotta be very detailed and blah blah blah. But we're just kind of chatting it up like these conversations are. These are just conversations. Then yeah, it, it's it's fine. It's good. It's all about context, right? And that's something that Sakarama Maharaj would argue too, especially even with fear, even fear and desire. Like what things of fear and desire. A lot of it's contextual too. A lot of it can be very contextual. In So I'm trying to think what else I want to include. I In this chapter, I mean, just like I say, it's a pretty typical chapter. References the Bhagavad Gita, talks about how the sword does not cut. It's literally does not cut it. As in um, talking about like what would happen if even if you were to become decapitated, like your soul, your atman isn't gone. It's just that body, and that's then the line of reincarnation, the conscious, the atman will just goes through a series of bodies, and it's like then they end up using another metaphor which I appreciate too. It's like fuel to the fire being consciousness and fuel being the bodies that the consciousness burns through. Kind of appreciate that metaphor because I think that, like I say, I'm really a good sucker for a good metaphor, and because once you get a good metaphor and perspective and really can just think about it, like yeah, it helps. At least for me, it helps really just like grasp the idea that much more so. So I think though I will leave it at that. Not try to ramble on too much today. So I will let you all go. I hope you all have a lovely day, and yeah, just keep doing you, and hope you find what you are looking for. Namaste, y'all. Hope you all have a good one. Peace.